You all to this webinar about drought and humus. My name is Jacob. I work for the region of southern Denmark, but is a part of, at least for the next hour and a half, I'm primarily a part of the project called NEPTUN. As you can hear, this webinar is going to be held in English. Has got to do with the fact that, even though we Danes are supposed to understand German, it doesn't always work that well. And I don't expect any Germans to understand Danish, so we will have to do it in English. I hope that's okay for the most of you. There will be a Q&A session at one point, and if there are any people that are uncomfortable with posing questions in English, my colleague Felix from Germany and I will try and translate them if you post them in your native language. So just let us know if you would prefer to ask in Danish or in German, and we'll try to do the translation in between. I should also mention that we do record this session, and I hope that's okay with everybody. Otherwise, please let us know right now. Okay, thank you. So I'm not gonna talk a whole lot here as an introduction. I'll just shortly take you through the program for today. Which hopefully you already seen, but otherwise, there it was. Otherwise, we will, when I'm done speaking, meet Dr. Agnes Sachse from University of Kiel. We'll take you through a session about water shortages and drought and what that means for the soils. Probably with a starting point in Schleswig-Holstein, but I don't imagine it's that different here in southern Denmark. So it will make sense for us here north of the border as well. After that, we have Mr. Christoph Thomsen from the organization called BobenOp, who will talk a little bit about a project they got going in Schleswig-Holstein, which is called Humusreich, and is a project that focuses on what you can do with an enriched soil, humus-enriched soil, in relation to both climate prevention and climate adaptation. And then finally, by the end of this session, there will be a Q&A. I kind of imagine that there might be time for a question or two during or right after the presentations, but otherwise we'll just go through them by the end of this. Before I hand the word to you, Agnes, I should probably give you all a little bit an idea about what the organization or the project NEPTUN is about, so you know who you meet here today. As I said, I'm a part of it as a representative of the region of southern Denmark, and we have several partners in Germany as well. One of them is Felix Oswald, who's also here from Kreis Nordfriesland, the University of Kiel, the University of Southern Denmark, and especially Clean, which is the lead partner here in Denmark. And I think we're all present here today. NEPTUN is primarily about water and climate adaptation. It's a Interreg project, cross-border Interreg project, which focuses on water treatment and climate adaptation. It focuses on how and what we can learn from each other across the border, but also try to team up public entities or any kind of problem owners within those two areas, water management and climate adaptation, and SMEs, small companies who would be able to solve any kinds of problems or challenges that those public entities would have. So we try to sort of match up those two as well. One of the things we do in this project is having seminars like this. We will have 2 additional coming up in the autumn, so please look out at our webpage to see if those 2 will have any interest for you guys as well. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to contact either me or Felix or Clean to ask more about this project if you have any interest in it. Okay, I think that's it for now. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but that doesn't really matter. I hope you're ready to take over now, Agnes, because the word and the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jacob. I will try to share my screen. So hopefully everybody can see it.
It is fine.
Okay, thank you very much. Because I cannot see you anymore, so I need feedback by voice if there's something wrong with the slides. So, welcome to my presentation about water shortage and water surplus, challenges of climate change for soils. Maybe before we start with the topic, I would tell you something about myself. I study meteorology and geography at the University of Leipzig in Germany and did my diploma in soil water balance modeling. And after this, I did my PhD at the TU Dresden in Germany about hydrological and hydrogeological modeling of the Western Dead Sea catchment in Israel and Palestine. And later on, I focused on root research in initial ecosystems. And from this, I started with also water balance modeling, especially in soil and also in the groundwater. And I was a member of the development group of Open Geosys, where we did the numerical groundwater modeling with case studies in Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, and China. And we did this at the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research in Leipzig in Germany. And since last year, I'm at Kiel University in the Institute of Geoscience, and I'm a scientific employee in the NEPTUN project and dealing with the impact of climate change on groundwater in a northern case study of Germany. So my talk will deal about soil in general, and then we take a look to climate change and the influence to the soil. So what is about the too much water and too little water, and I will show you an example of northern Germany. Later on, we will see the consequences of the climate change for soil. I will tell you something about the drought monitor of Germany. It is called the Dürre monitor. And also, I will talk to you about the adaptation measures and their potential. And we will finish this session with a short summary. So, when we talk about soil, we can see that soil has a lot of functions. For example, function in social, ecological, and cultural aspects. And the soil is very important, but it takes a time to establish a soil. So it takes more than 2,000 years to create 10 centimeters of the topsoil. But the soil is very important for feed the growing world population, for example, and therefore it's also important to protect the soil and also include soil conservation. So that means the soil has fulfilled a great variety of tasks in nature, and the soil properties, for example, like humus content or size structure, are crucial for the fertility of soils. And fertile soil is essential for successful production in agriculture. The soil can also store and filter water, so it is a natural buffer of flood water, and it provides us with hopefully clean groundwater. The climate influences most of the soil processes, including the soil formation, its properties, and also its functions. And the soil processes like weathering or formation of minerals or decomposition and the development of humus and structure, take place over vast timescales and are strongly dependent on temperature and the availability of water. In Germany, the soil function have to be protected since 1999 with the Bodenschutzgesetz. It's a soil layer. In Germany, we have all over the whole country permanent soil observation plots, and these plots are in order to record changes in the soil as early as possible. And the first permanent soil monitoring areas were set up in Schleswig-Holstein at the end of the 1980s. The goal of those long-term soil monitoring are to describe the current status when setting up the permanent soil observation area. And it's also is the long-term monitoring of changes through repeat examinations and the derivation of forecasts for the future development of the soil. And we can see here with the map the distribution of those permanent soil observation plots in Schleswig-Holstein. And we can see that in every typical soil type, we can find some of them of the permanent soil observation plots. Here on this slide, we can see on the left hand a typical plot of such a permanent soil observation. We can see here, this is the core of such an observation plot, which is full with instruments dealing about the soil moisture and soil temperature and so on. We can here see also a soil profile of this area, and we also measure the infiltration rates to the different soil layers in this area. And it's also combined by a meteorological station over there, so that you have a complete insight of the soil processes. And what we can see from the measurements, from the long-term measurements now, is that in farmland cultivation, both under and oversaturation during critical phases can adversely affect yields. In both light and heavy soils, the soil water reservoirs available during the vegetation period have shown a significant declining trend during the past 50 years. We can see this here in the slide, where we can see different yields of sugar beet, winter cereal crops, and yeah, you can see a slightly decreasing. So when we talk about climate change, we see that changes in soil property and processes caused by climate change are related to the soil water balance and vice versa. So in summer, we can see that we will have higher temperatures and low rainfall, and this leads to the reduction in the water available for the plants. And this leads to drought stress in the plants and also crop losses. And increasing temperature leads to an increased biological activity. And when you have sufficient moisture and oxygen available, then the turnover rate increases and also the humus decomposition increases. And increasing precipitation by climate change inhibits the humus decomposition. What we can see here from the right-hand slide, which is unfortunately in German, but I will explain it to you. We can see here if there's an increase in the temperature, we can see that there are parts in Germany, especially the northern part, which not suffer so much about climate change. But we have a lot of parts in Germany which really suffers from temperature rise, for example, with droughts and so on, and we will see this in later slides. So what does the climate change means in Germany? We see that the annual mean temperature has already increased measurably in the last 2 decades, and we expected a temperature increase for about 2.5 degrees for the period of 2021 to 2050, and for 3.7 degrees for the period from 2071 to 2100. There will be fewer frost days and more hot days with maximum temperatures above 30 degrees, and the number of tropical nights will also increase. There will be more and longer dry periods expected, And in some parts of Germany, the precipitation could decrease by up to 30% in summer months. And we can also expect more frequent and stronger extreme weather events like heavy precipitation, storms, and heat waves. On the right-hand side, we can see a graph which tells us about the projected relative change in winter precipitation in comparison to the time series of 1971 to 2000. And we can see that the precipitation will change during winter time in the next few years really extremely. So up to 10 to 30% more precipitation. Here we have a figure which shows you the climate change all over Germany, and we can see, especially here in the northern part, the coastal area, which is here in this part, that there will be a slightly change in the temperatures and also in the heat waves and also in the droughts. But what is very important in the coastal area, that there will be an increase in heavy rain events. When we take a look to drier parts of Germany, like the one here in Brandenburg and also along the Rhine River, we can see that they are really stressed by the climate change. So they will have very long and strange heat waves and suffer really from droughts in the area. So these are the expected climate change in Germany. And when we take a look to the northern part of Germany, we can see here with those graphs, this is the change of the precipitation for the years of 2030, 2050, and 2070. We see here in the first part of the graph the change of the annual precipitation amounts. And we can see right in 2030, there will be a slight change of the annual precipitation amount. But what we can see here already is that there will be also a change in the spring month. So these are March, April, and May month. And you can see from the periods to the periods that there will be a stronger increase. And in the summer months like June, July, and August, we can see that there will be much less precipitation available. So this will harms the agricultural state. And what we can see here at the end of the graphs is the winter precipitation. And you can really see that the amount of winter precipitation will increase to a very high state. So when we sum up this for the northern part, we can see that there's a less strong temperature increase in the coastal regions. We will see a changing of the frequency of temperature characteristics, like the ice days, the frost days, and also the summer days and the tropical nights, as I mentioned before. And we can also see above average increase in winter precipitation for the North Sea. And particular strong decrease in summer precipitation are shown for the Baltic Sea coast. And beside this, we can also see a sea level rise with an average plus 30 centimeter, which also has an influence for the soil layers. So the climate change and the climate impacts are a challenge for the soils, and the possible consequences of climate change for soils are the changes in the soil water balance, an increasing risk of the soil erosion, and also a higher risk of soil compactations. And beside this, there will be also a change in soil biodiversity, a change in the material balance, and also changes in levels and stocks of organic matter in the soil. In this presentation, I will only focus on the first three aspects. So the changes in soil water balance will show that there will be an increased evaporation rates, and we can expect this as a result of warmer and drier summers and also wetter and milder winters. And this can lead to a decrease in the amount of seepage water and also later on to the groundwater recharge. And there could be a lack of plant available water during the growing season, because in the spring months the precipitation will decrease. With sinking groundwater levels, the organic matter bound in bogs continuously to decompose, and thus greenhouse gases are released. And in some areas in Germany, there will be a need for irrigation increase. And the increase in persistent drought in summer months, combined with increasing intensity of precipitation, leads also to an increase in surface runoff. And the result of this is that the probability of local and regional flood events will also increase. The climate scenario has predicted an increase in winter precipitation, as I said to you before. So it's about 30%, and accompanied by the rise in the sea level by the year 2100 of 20 to 60 centimeter, especially in the northern part of Germany. And this will affect the lowlands in Schleswig-Holstein, because the lowland areas are primarily used for agriculture. And since their drainage can only be dependent on the tides or artificially by pumping stations. So the increased winter precipitation, water runoff from the geest areas, accompanied by changed flood waves due to heavy rain events or increasing sealing of areas, meet poorer drainage conditions due to the reduced drainage capacity in the soil. The increasing amounts of water and the increasing energy costs will lead to a considerably additional burdens for the agriculture. And these facts were collected from a working group which is called Lowlands 2050 in Germany, and they develop sustainable strategies for water management in lowland areas by climate change. Now I would like to show you an example of the northern part of Germany, especially for the year 2020. It was in Schleswig-Holstein a very strange year. The February was the wettest February that was ever recorded, and then it was followed by 3 dry and sunny months. We can see here on the left-hand side that the amount of precipitation in Schleswig-Holstein for the whole month of February was very high, and here we can compare it with the annual mean monthly data of precipitation. And we can see that in big parts of Schleswig-Holstein there were much more precipitation available, and the soil was really saturated. When we take a look to the right-hand figure, we can see here the comparison of the precipitation in the year 2020 of February, and we see there is much more in precipitation than the mean monthly precipitation data. And when we take a look to the following month of March, April, and May, that there were much less precipitation available due to the high evaporation and due to the very sunny month. Here we can see 2 pictures of the soil moisture in this area. So normally the soil water reservoir of the upper 60 centimeter is usually filled with water at the end of winter, and is usually around 100% of the available water capacity. And with average precipitation, the water requirement of plants in spring and summer is higher than the amount of precipitation, so that its soil dries up to a depth of 60 centimeter by the end of summers, to values of up to 50% of the available water capacity. And we can see here, this figure is from March, that we can see the soil is really saturated from water, and only a few months later, in the beginning of June, there's only less soil moisture available in the topsoil. In Germany, we have a drought monitor. We call it a Dürre monitor, and this was established by the Helmholtz Center of Environmental Research in Leipzig in Germany. And this monitor describes the drought conditions of the soil in 3 maps. That means in the total soil up to 180 centimeters, the topsoil up to 25 centimeters, and also the plant available water in the topsoil up to 25 centimeters on a daily basis. And the representations refer to the deviation of the current soil moisture from a long-term average, and this is compared to the period of 1951 to 2019. And the basis of those simulations are with the mesoscale hydrological model, MHM, which was developed by Luis Samaniego at the U of Z in Leipzig. And we can see here in the figures that the topsoil was in the beginning of June with a lot of drought areas and also very extreme drought areas. And if you take a look to the whole soil, to the total soil, we can also see that in the deeper ground there's also still a drought to observe. When we compare the year 2020 to all the other years, we can see that 2020 was a year which has really severe drought events. The drought monitor is available for whole Germany, and here I put a screenshot from the beginning of this week where we can see the actual drought situation in Germany. And what we can see here with the first slide is the total soil, and we can already see some drought effects in the northern part of Germany. And when we take a look to the topsoil, we can also see the drought. But there's still some water available for the plants up to 25 centimeters. Here on the right-hand side, we can see for every year since 2052 the drought situation. And we can see here right in the bottom that starting from 2018, we have really severe droughts in Germany all over the whole country. Climate change has also an influence to the soil regarding increasing risk of soil erosion. So the increase of heavy rain events and summer droughts and changes in soil cover as a result of adaptation to new climate conditions. And this leads to an increase in the risk of soil erosion. And the possible effects are that we lost the humic soil, topsoil material, and there's a shift of nutrient and pollutions bound in the soil, and the resulting increase in diffuse inputs into the water bodies. And we can observe eutrophication in the water bodies. And the increasing evaporation, together with the decrease in precipitation in the summer months, leads to a faster drying out of the topsoil. The consequences are that we have an increase in wind erosion, and the increasing spring and summer droughts can heighten this risk of wind erosion too. Here we have an example of the rainfall erosivity in one part of Germany. We can see here from the beginning of the 1970s that there's an increase of the rainfall erosivity. So the line graph shows the rainfall intensity, and the values fluctuate strongly between the years and range from less than 20 in 1976 to more than 90 in 2006. And so we can see that the time series has a significant increasing trend with rainfall erosivity in this part. For the northern part of Germany, it is possible to take a look on the Digital Atlas Nord. Here we can see areas which are where we can observe soil erosion. And you can take a look here on this map. Of course, it's in German, but if you have questions, I can help you also with this. And then also another aspect of the climate change on soil is the soil compaction. Due to the increase in the precipitation in winter months, there is an increase in risk of soil compaction expected, particularly in the clayey and loamy locations in the marsh, and also in the soils in the young moraine landscape, as we can see it in the northern part of Germany. And the predicted decrease in the number of frost days can lead to a reduction in the stability of the soil structure, and the possible consequences of those soil compaction is an increase of risk erosion, loss of yield, and also waterlogging. So how can we adjust this? What are the adaptation measures and their potentials? The federal government bundles the adaptation activities in the German adaptation strategy to climate change. It's called Deutsche Anpassungsstrategie. And the strategy lays the foundation for a medium-term process in which the relevant goals are defined and possible adaptation measures are developed and implemented. I don't want to go too much in detail, but what we can see it, there is a recommendation for further development of the regional climate models in order to reduce the existence uncertainties in forecasting precipitation, its distribution, and also the prediction of extreme events. And also, they recommend developing the measurements and survey programs for soil data. For example, the German-wide erosion monitoring system, which I showed you before with the drought monitoring. There are also other recommendations, but I don't want to talk about in detail about this. But what we can see here from the right-hand side, this is a figure which shows you the adaptation time to climate effects. So it's not possible to change the things very fast. Most of the adaptation measures take a long time, for example, up to 10 to 50 years. And especially soil needs a long time to get their resilience regarding the climate change. So to sum up my presentation, the effects of climate change can be summarized for various soil processes as follows. The increased potential evapotranspiration and the changed precipitation situation will affect soil water for sure, and also the groundwater dynamics, and affect the development of the soil. The amount of seepage water will change due to the changes in the precipitation intensity. We can see from the northern part of Germany that we will have much more groundwater recharge in the winter month because the rise of precipitation amount. We can see that the changed soil water balances influence also the biological activity and also the material balance through material transport with the seepage water. The increased temperatures can result in an increase in yield if there's sufficient water supply available, but also mean an increase in the need for irrigation in some parts. The increase in temperature and the change in the distribution and amount of precipitation have an impact to the biodiversity. And we can see that the increased annual mean temperature usually causes also an increase in the microbial activity in the soil. And the shifts in the seasonality with more wet periods in late winter or spring and autumn are superimposed with management-related traffic and processing peaks on agricultural side. And this increases the soil physical loads and the risk of compaction of the top and the subsoil. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention and open for questions.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Very inspiring and very interesting. As Felix has wrote in the chat, it is also possible to pose your question written in the chat if you want to. And there's already one there, which I will hand over to you, Felix, because that's posted in German.
Yes.
So I'll hope you will be able to translate that question so we all get a benefit from it.
Thank you, Jacob. I will do my very best. My name is Felix Oswald. I represent Kreis Nordfriesland in the NEPTUN project, and the question was as follows. So, as Agnes nicely illustrated to us, we expect the summers to become drier and the winters to become wetter. So the question to you, Agnes, would be, should municipalities think about to build water reservoirs or large water holding tanks in order to collect water into winter and to store it for the summer for irrigation purposes?
Yeah, this would be a very good idea, but the thing is that we really need a large storage capacity. Yeah, and large storage capacity is not easily to build. It would be the best if you can put such a large storage capacity under your fields in the agriculture areas, but this is not possible. But everybody can do this for its own, so collecting the water from its own roofs and take the water for the plants in their garden. But for agriculture, I think it is an utopic idea to collect the water in the winter months.
Okay, thank you very much. There is a raised hand from Michael Rothbüll.
Hi, thank you, Agnes, for this very nice presentation. Really interesting indeed. My question is that due to I'm a farmer myself, do you have any collected data regarding the ways how you do the soil management? Like if you plow or you just harrow before seeding, or you have this conservation agriculture regarding drought and also flooding, if the soil are better or stand more bad standing in these situations?
Thank you for the questions. Unfortunately, I do not have data because I'm more a scientist in water balance modeling, and we use data from, for example, from the waterworks or from the weather service, yeah, to do the modeling. And we are not at the moment so well connected to farmers, yeah. So I'm sorry for this.
It's okay. It's okay. I was just curious if you had looked into that as well, yeah. Because I can see a difference on my fields, how I do these soil management. So maybe you also had some data on that. Mm-hmm. And thank you.
Yes, there is a written question from Barbara Schumann in German again. So over to you, Felix.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. So the question basically is there enough water surplus in winter to to cover up for the lacking water in summer, or do we have netto deficit in the groundwater rebuilding?
Yeah, this is a very good question, Mrs. Schumann. We can see from the northern part of Germany that the groundwater recharge is mainly in the winter month. And there we can see that we have a lot of groundwater recharge available. But we can see from the middle part of Germany that those groundwater recharge amounts in winter are not large enough to fill up again the soil layer with soil water. And but what we can see from our studies in northern Germany, that there will be no change in the groundwater level due to much less groundwater recharge. Yeah, but in the middle part of Germany, the soil layers are totally different, and also the climate conditions are totally different to the one in northern Germany. Yeah, and that's why we suffer in the middle part of Germany still from the lack of soil water from the last few years, and it's not possible to fulfill the soil again with groundwater recharge water. Yeah.
Okay, we got one more question, written question that we will take here. Otherwise, I will. Dr. Agnes Sachse will be around for the Q&A afterwards. So if you can remember your questions, we'll take that last one, and then we'll go into that later on. And the question is from Sabrina Gut, who asked, would alternative agricultural practices such as conservation agriculture, minimum tillage, after harvest crops improve the soil water retention capacity sufficiently to avoid erosion and compaction? You can see the question as well in the chat.
Yeah, this is a very good thing. And there's a need to change the land use to be better prepared for climate change effects on the soil. So, of course, there are also some adaptation measures which are recommended for do this, and they are also distinguished between the northern part of Germany and the middle part of Germany. Yeah, so there are some papers available where you can see the recommendations, but I also noticed from farmers that it's sometimes only an idea and then a recommendation, but they are not really good measure available for the farmers. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Trine, is it okay if we wait with your question to the final Q&A? Thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Agnes. Just one question for me is it okay for us to share your very interesting presentation? Because it was very information dense, so it might be a help for some people to have a chance to read it again.
Of course, you can use it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that was our first presentation for today, and now we go from sort of the general picture of how things look in regards to drought and downpour and the soil, and then to one of the examples that Dr. Sachse didn't mention on how we actually adapt to this. And I'll leave the floor to Mr. Christoph Thomsen from what is called, and I apologize for my German right away, BobenOp, Klima- und Energiewende. I hope that was correct. You're going to tell us a little bit about a project which is called Humusreich. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Jacob. And the pronunciation was better than most people do south of Hamburg because they don't know how to pronounce BobenOp. Yeah, that was fine. Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Agnes, for your presentation. I think that was a really good basis that I can start with. And now it's, yeah, I want to share my presentation with you. And I guess you can already see it. So yeah, I'm Kristoff, and I'm, well, I think in English it would translate it as a CEO of this BobenOp. Klima- und Energiewende Verein. We are focused on climate change and energy transition, but I interpret my role as a strategic enabler. We have a lot of different projects going on, and they are all the bottom up. So we have a look like what can we change. Right in the center of the circle, you see Ideenschmiede. This is like a format where ideas are presented, and if some people say, well, we should really have a look like what can we do about it, and then it may eventually become a project. Yeah, and otherwise it will be it's an interesting evening. So we have different projects, like we're advising people, like is your roof feasible for harvesting solar energy? We have a group that plans to build a tiny house, a park. We buy green electricity and green gas together, and thus achieve good prices for clean energy. We have about district heating. And this group looks a lot to Denmark because we're I think it's really great what you guys are doing with the district heating and district solar heating especially. I think, yeah, so we have a like how to do it yourself group, so to say, and we have a Mitfahrbank, and that is has by now been the biggest project for BobenOp. We have then the whole region south of the border, around Flensburg, and in July, and the first July weekend, when you have the Tour de France start in Sonderborg, we will do Mitfahrbank rally. So yeah, a small event or nice event where you can go with this Mitfahrbank yeah, across the border. So that'll be an event on the 1st and 2nd of July. So, but this is just to give you an overview of what we are doing. But now I want to focus on humus reich. So like how to get rich in humus. And I want to start with a picture of this apple. So imagine this apple is the earth, and then take this apple and cut 1/3 out of it. 2/3 you can put aside. That's the oceans. Then you have 1/3. This is land, and from this 1/3, you can cut away, like, again, almost 2/3 of it, because that is desert. This is rocky soil. This is tundra. This is the cities. And again, you have only like 1/3 of the 1/3 that is left. So in total, about 15% of the world, and that is the arable land, where the food production, where you can grow plants by agriculture. And the forest is also in the 2/3 that has been cut away. So we have now about like 10 or maybe like more like 15% that is left of this apple. And from this 15%, you peel off just, you take off just the skin. You peel the skin off. And this represents the topsoil, the top 1 meter in soil. And just the skin of this 15% of the apple contains more carbon than the atmosphere. Actually, 2 to 3 times as much carbon is stored in this topsoil. So this is just to give you an impression, like we're always talking about carbon like it's a problem. Actually, it's just a matter of balance, like with a lot of things. So this is what I told, the picture with numbers. This is gigatons, and just to show you the circles, atmosphere is 800 gigatons, soil is 2,300 gigatons, and the plant biomass is about 550 gigatons. So you see in the soil, there is can be a big game changer in climate change. And as we heard from Agnes, right now the soils are eroding and adding carbon, adding CO2 to the atmosphere. Our approach is to try to stop that the carbon's going, stop the carbon losses in the ground, and to turn it around so that the carbon is again stored in the carbon, because that's climate change, but it also has a lot of positive effects for the farmers. Just to have it mentioned, there's a fossil pool that is a lot more carbon than the soil taken together, and the deep oceans. These are really, really, really big game changers, and we should be careful not to untap too much of that devastating potential. So the soils have evolved over the last 1,000 of years, but today about 1/4 of all agricultural used lands worldwide are eroded, not in good shape, or have even become deserts by now. So looking like this on the picture. In Germany also, we losing topsoil. about 10 tons per hectare, which is quite a lot due to erosion and soil degradation. Looking on the worldwide perspective, it's even more, about 20 tons. This is from a Worldwide Fund for Nature study. So therefore, we increase the effects of climate change through soil, even though, as I showed in the other picture, it could take up a lot more of carbon in the soil. And this is what in English is called carbon farming, like how to harvest carbon and store it safely in the soil. And this is something that we want to push. And yeah, I can skip that one because Agnes showed a lot about it. It's dry summer, wet winter. That is the conclusion of it. And also what you said, summer drought and heavy rain leads to more soil erosion, more through wind and water. And the rain periods in like here, the blue colored ones, they are really a problem in winter when the farmer wants to be out on the field to harvest his corn or something like it. So we want to change it. And so this is our team, and we are this Humusreich started bottom up with a farmer who tried different methods how to store carbon in the soil, in the ground. And we said, well, yeah, this is a very important topic, and a lot of farmers are curious about it, like asking how can we do it, how can we store carbon, or how can we increase our humus level in the ground. And so we applied for public funding, and actually now we are one of the projects that are funded by this German adaptation strategy that Agnes mentioned. And we are quite in the beginning of our project. It started in January and will run until the end of 2024. And we do workshops and stuff. And now we have a group of 30, I think it's almost 40 farmers from across Schleswig-Holstein. And we have they become a network, and we're inviting the experts to give us lectures, like on different methods, how to enrich your soil with humus and store carbon. And but also we want not just top down, the experts come and tell us how to do it, but also that we try out different things on the field, and that the farmers learn from each other. That is also, I think, very important. Oh, I skipped that due to, no, I mentioned it. I run through it because I'm a little behind schedule. So what we think the farmers need education, how to do it, but we think that the farmers also need financial support, because this is quite a transition that they had. They need to change the way that they work on the land. They think about, I'll tell you about the measures later on, but it takes a different mindset. But often it takes you, as a farmer, you need to invest first, because you need different machines to work on your land, or you using, I don't know, by bacteria to and it's costly. And one of the things that we have in mind is like implementing like certificates. So what we want is an exchange from the company that gets a certificate and say, okay, we want to compensate for the CO2 emissions that we have. And so first of all, the company tries to lower their CO2 impact, but there was still the leftovers. So what is still left from the CO2 emissions, that should, I think, yeah, it should be able to compensate it. Oh, sorry for that one. Okay, so that the company pays and says, okay, the CO2 that I emitted is stored up in the soil and at Farmer Hansen, for example, and Farmer Hansen, with the money that he gets from the climate saving certificate or humus certificate, he is able to finance first of all the measures that he takes to store up carbon in the soil, and also like to take courses and learn about new measures. So we think it's quite important that not just to leave the farmers alone and say, okay, it's your soil, your problem, but to give them advice, to give them education that they learn, but also to connect them so they can learn from each other, and yeah, from best practice examples that already exist. And secondly, we think it's very important, so to get it to scale it up, that there is a financing for this building up soil, and yeah, we think it's just to give money to those farmers who do service to the whole society by doing climate protection. All right, so I mentioned those no exchange and building knowledge, best practice examples, and highlight them. The climate certificate standards. Also, like first of all, thinking like how can it be measured? This is more complicated than you might think, but we're working on it, and we wanted like to be a recipe book for the farmers. So these 4 things we hope to create within the next 3 years. And yeah, just to give you an introduction, like what we are about to do in Schleswig-Holstein. And these networks with the farmers, they'll start in the end of May, and will be 12 events within a year. And we'll try out different things on the field or in the stables. Okay, so that was about the project, Humusreich. And now I get back to a more general level. Why the humus? And this is, yeah, of course, something that you have already heard in Agnes' presentation. But still, sometimes it's good to hear twice. So first of all, it's the adaptation to extreme weather events, both heavy rain and drought. And it improves because humus-rich soil has a better water absorption capacity. So when there is heavy rain, it doesn't just flow away, but it can be absorbed. So we have farmers, they have like a pipe, put it on the soil, and put in like 10 centimeter high of water in this tube, and they measure the time, how long does it take for the water to go into the ground. And there's a lot of so there's a wide range, and so some soils the water just keeps standing, and because the ground is so compacted, and it's that the water doesn't really trickle into the ground. And in other when the ground is rich in humus and fertile, the water, the 110 centimeters, which equals 100 millimeters of precipitation, will be gone like after a minute or two. And yeah, so this helps the farm. Yeah, that the water is stored in the soil, and maybe this is even it's a lot cheaper way than building infrastructure to catch the water. It's better to store the water in the ground, in the topsoil where it's available to the plants. And so the farmer can also yield harvest in drought seasons. Adaptation also is about the water storage capacity. Yeah, because the water that is absorbed you can imagine the humus like a sponge, and the plants grow into this like sponge, and they get the water out, so they have it available for growing. So yeah, so and that is also like the reason why it's funded from this German adaptation strategy. This program is about adaptation, but it's more than just adaptation to climate change. It has depends on what your point of view is. Are there side effects or maybe main effects? And this is a side effect. Depends on the pair of glasses that you're wearing. So it's also the humus-rich soil has a better capacity for storing nutrients, which allows for healthier plant growth, and therefore it requires less pesticides and mineral fertilizers. And so the humus is carbon, but also nitrogen, which the plants need for the growth. And it's also like important for you, I think. It filters the pollutants and thus protects the groundwater. So if you invest in humus-rich agriculture, you can save some money on cleaning the water afterwards. So and it's climate positive. Humus contains of 58% carbon. So if you have like 1%, if you can, so the typical humus content is about 2% in agricultural and farmland, and about 4% in grasslands, a lot higher in the wetlands. But if you can just get 1% up, so from 2 to 3%, or from 3 to 5%, this equals 50 tons, approximately 50 tons of carbon dioxide that is stored away in 1 hectare. So we have a lot of hectares. So big potential for climate change, or for climate protection. And yeah, I'll show you some pictures later on. And also another thing is this soil that is with humus has a lot higher biodiversity. So underground and on the ground. Yeah. So we've seen similar pictures in Agnes' presentation. Problems is loosened, collapsing, low humus soil, loss of soil fertility, and the soil buffering properties are lost. So like February this year was even worse than the February in 2020 because we had even more precipitation. And now we had in March we had like almost no rain at all. And in February, all the farmers said, "Oh no, there's too much rain. What should we do about it?" And now in the end of March, farmers said, "Oh, hopefully it will rain again soon." And now in April it rained like only I think like 70 millimeters of rain we had in our near Flensburg, and again you can see some water on so where the farmers have problems to go on their fields in some places because it's the buffering capacity is lost. So and one other thing is not just like a mechanic. The thing that is lost, that got lost in the last decades, is the microflora and soil life. and we need it. So good soil is you can smell good soil actually, and it has a lot of the rainworms inside. This is one of the animals to show, but it has a lot of microbacteria in it. So I'd like to say it with a picture. This is basically the same flour, but this is flour. This is the bread. It can hold the water. It's the same amount of water on top, and the flour, you can see it like washes away. And this is what happens to the soil. It is not the right, not the humus, and not the right bacteria, and also the plants to keep it together. So you should try to keep your ground. You have to have roots in the ground at all times, and to have the ground covered, because that prevents this from happening, like with a plate with a flour on it. So this is one of the basic rules: keep the ground covered with crops. Don't harvest your corn in October or November, and then leave the ground naked or barren for the whole winter, and start plowing it or plow it and then leave it barren, and start working on it in April or May. But try to have it covered also during the winter. Yeah, so if you're interested more like what the rain in February looked like, probably had the same north of the border. This is nice article from you can have a look about it. And it's like Agnes said, one of the problems why the buffer capacity is lost, because you have heavy machinery on grounds that are really soaking wet, and this leads to soil compaction, and soil compaction leads to a decrease in water and air exchange, a decrease in groundwater recharge, or this. Life is lost. And now I'll show you some pictures about it, like what the rain can do, and what the rain can't do if the soil looks like that. So you see here, there's the roots, and they hold the soil together. All right, this is one slide about the what is in the soil. Actually, a handful of soil contains more living organisms than there are humans on Earth. So a lot of bacteria, fungi, algae, and small animals, sort of. And it's really alive. If you have the chance, take a look at the soil through the microscope, and you'll be astonished what you will find. All right, I'm a little behind schedule. I hope I can catch up. So we have this. This one shows what are the big areas where the carbon is stored, and you see here is the wetlands, small, only 6% of the area, but a very high in carbon stored. So we really should do something about it, and there will be a project starting with the uni in Kiel University in Kiel, where they do research on it and give advices. So it's a project that will start this year, and I think next month actually, and go on for quite a few years. But we really have to do something about the wetlands, because right now we are losing a lot of carbon here. But also want to show you is the arable land and the grassland, where together we have quite a lot of carbon stored. What strategies? One of them is so basically all of them are what you will find when you look on Google on regenerative agriculture. And so measures you could take are like planting the trees within the field. So this is called agroforst. And in Germany, in Schleswig-Holstein, we have a lot of these already, which are also good against the wind erosion, very useful. But the idea is that these roots, they go deep and help to get the water to the top level, and then the weed can produce more fruit. So even though you have some trees in the field, you can harvest the same amount and quality of wheat in summer. Yeah, also implementing. So here you see like the different root systems. Some go go straight down, some go like to the side, and it's good to have a variety of it. Mulching is one of the methods. So here you have this mulched straw from the fruit that has grown on the field before the corn, and it helps to keep the ground covered, and then the water can do a lot less damage when the rain comes. One of the things you can do is holistic mob grazing. Holistic grazing, also name for it, where there will be picture quite soon about it, or the use of compost. And here also like some other measures are mentioned, like yeah, from Henning. He's one of our farmers at BobenOp, and who had the idea to start this project. And he said, like, you have to try to avoid decay in the ground and promote the decomposting. So there has to be enough oxygen, or you have to ferment it in the ground. These are the two ways, but you don't want the decay. You don't want the soil to smell foully. Interesting thing is like how to what to do with the manure. So if you manage it right, it doesn't stink, which people will be happy about that live near to the fields. But you can the methods like yeah, putting some ingredients, also like adding some like these ones, microorganisms that prevent the decay and start the rotting process. So yeah, that is actually like good smell, good soil smells good. You should remember that. You can add rock flour or algae lime. Compost tea is one of the things that Henning does. Oxygen-loving microorganisms. He tries to avoid ground pressure. Not just so turns the soil just flat, like the top 10 centimeters, and not turning around the top 30 centimeters, which is often done. He tries to restore the soil fermentation and use organisms like microorganisms to help to assist the processes that are going on in the soil. Yeah, tillage as flat as possible, mulching, surface rotting, long crop rotations, use plants that give more carbon to the soil than they're actually taking, prevent bare soils, for example, by undersowing, like corn and grass in between, or intertillage, that you have like you harvest your fruit in late summer or autumn, and then you have a crop as diverse as possible, many different plants with different roots, and you harvest, you mulch that one in spring, but you have the ground covered, you have food for the bacteria, and but you don't harvest it, you just put it as, yeah, it's just food for the ground. And yeah, and one other thing, use of biochar, also different interesting point, and the mob grazing. And this is what it looks like on Henning's farm. So he has the cows outside in the very high grass. They will eat like half of it, trample down and poo on it on the other half. And next day, they will get to the next part. Only like very small parts of the grassland where they feed on. And this actually led to quite an increase in the soil carbon. So it's not just a theory we could store carbon, but we also have some quite good examples where we increase the topsoil level. Before, usually it's like 30 centimeters when you dig into the ground, and then it's you can't get through it with your shovel because it's so compacted. This is 30 centimeters is how deep the plow gets to the ground, and we increased this up to 45 centimeters. In some places, spots even deeper, and we have a nice video on our homepage if you want to have a look at it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Not that bad. Okay. And he said also mammals are quite important because they have a lot of bacteria in their poo. So and so they need to not be in the stable, but they need to be outside. And then when we have intact soil life, the natural productivity increases, and then we have even more growth, more biomass, more transpiration, and this leads to more water vapor. And the water vapor, when it rises up, this is a natural cooling effect, so quite helpful to get the temperatures down. And to say the numbers, 5% more transpiration capacities also leads to 2% more clouds, which will hopefully bring more rain in summer. So I think we think the mammals, when they are outside, the cows, but also sheep and goat, they are quite important for the system. So, and if I don't know, maybe just another 3 minutes. Is it okay, Jacob?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So because this is one of the things that is one of my, I call it one of my hobbies. It's biochar, and I think this is can also be a game changer. And I really digged into that topic and try to promote it wherever possible. So the idea is you take biomass. It could be wood, could be here like smaller pieces, branches and stuff, but also this is like shells, shells or something. But anything that is wooden biomass. You could also take grass or leaves or something, and to put this into a pyrolysis plant. This is basically like a wood burner, but without burning. So there's little or no oxygen, and in the end you have syngas and pyrolysis oil, which can be burned again. So you have some heat for district heating, and you have the biochar, and the biochar is very helpful. I'm not going to show, but basically, to put it in one sentence, it assists the processes that are going on in the ground. So it's just it has a lot high or surface area, and when you so it's a perfect breeding place for all the microorganisms, and they feel really at home in it, and they can and they you have to enrich them with microorganisms and also nutrients, and then put it to the ground. Or you can feed it to the cows, and then it has positive effects on the cow health. And then biogas, and it is in the manure, it goes to the biogas, and then to the ground. Then it can have the multiple positive effects. If you're more interested in that, contact me. I can tell you about it like a whole day through. The same like with the humus surplus. Or you could have a look at this source where it's really nicely explained in English. Or you could have a look at some best practice projects like in Stockholm, or you could have a visit at the biochar production site in Schleswig-Holstein, which is in Rendsburg, so not like 180 to 100 kilometers from the border, not that far, and have a look at it. So the idea is you take something that is not used well right now, wooden inputs, and you turn it into something useful. You can take and you have the heat for your district heating, plus you have the biochar, which has the carbon stored for a long period of time, because it's very it doesn't fall apart, but it's the structure remains for hundreds and thousands of years. And they have this in the called terra preta, where the Indios did it 500 years ago. And basically what these pyrolysis plants do is imitate the process and to produce biochar. And it's helpful for building up humus, but it's also helpful from a municipal perspective to use the things that are already there, the biomass, the wooden biomass, and create something of value out of it. So yeah, just if you're interested in that, please ask me anytime. And if you want to know more about the Humusreich project and what we are about to do and doing, we have an Instagram account with where we have like one post a week. What we are about to do and what's going on. It's in German. Sorry for that. But if you want, you can follow us, and then you can stay on tune, or you could become part of the network itself if you have. But this is a regional project, and the funding institute is very focused that the farmers that take part in the program are from Schleswig-Holstein, and except so, but no chance to take part in the project directly if you're from Denmark, but the results are all open source. So our BobenOp, our goal is to make, what we want is to make everything, all the results from the project visible, and also so easy to copy. So you're very welcome to follow us, and I'm very interested, like looking ahead to the next 3 years, what we will achieve in the project and how we can help farmers transform the way they farm and how they store carbon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kristoff. I think we'll go directly to the Q&A session from here. So any questions directed strictly towards you, Kristoff, will just be part of that. So I've got quite a few written questions, and we can start with these. Don't know why I sort of closed off my microphone while talking there. I've got a lot of written questions, and we will start with that, but don't hesitate to ask more. Going back, Linda Bredal had a question, and I assume that one is for you, Agnes, and the question is, can you say anything about whether the research results that you mentioned in your session can be extrapolated to Danish soils? So the question is basically, does it apply here in Denmark as well?
Yeah, it is, because we are very similar with the geological background, and also the soil types are very dissimilar in northern Germany and also in Denmark. So you can use the findings also in Denmark.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that answered your question, Linda. Then just to remember, Trine, you had a hand raised. I assume that that's the communication you got with Michael Rothbøl online, or? Okay, thank you very much. Then there's a question from Rasmus from the municipality of Middelfart. And I don't know who it is targeted towards, so one of you can just answer it. And that is, what is the scientific experience and or opinion on the effects and potential of agroforestry? Any of you two, Kristoff or Agnes, that want to answer that question?
Okay, so it's quite new, the agroforestry thing, and I think it's even more useful in areas like Brandenburg, where there's a lot of wind erosion because the fields are large, and we have like 1,000 hectare fields, and the wind just can play with the topsoil, and here we have the Knicks in Schleswig-Holstein, so the hedges between the fields, and this is sort of agroforestry. The thing, so I'm no expert in agroforestry, but so the studies that I know say you harvest the same amount, you have to plant them north to south, and you have to do your tillage close to the trees, because otherwise the roots will go this way, and they will take away the water from the plants that grow there. But you have to plow or not plow, work your land quite close to where the roots would go this way, because then the roots would go down and deep down and transport the water up. And then you have more the effect of the water that is on the ground level, where the wheat or whatever grows on the field can reach it, is bigger or the same or bigger than the losses that you have, because you have lost some space on your precious space on your farmland, and the effects of the shadow that is there on the field. But when we talk about drought in summer, some shadow on the field could also be helpful to minimize the water losses.
Right. The next question.
If you want to know more about it, there's in Germany we have a quite good association about agroforestry. I'll put the link into the chat.
Thank you very much. The next question is for you as well, Kristoff, and comes from Nina Kana. And it says, how does Henning turn the liquid manure into liquid non-smelling humus?
Yeah, quite easy, hands-on way. So put the link inside. So there are different ways. One of them is by using biochar, which and by the use of biochar, so what you smell is a nitrogen that goes out of the manure, and by the use of biochar, you can reduce the nitrogen emissions, which are quite relevant to the side climate change potential. And so biochar is one of the methods. Also using the effective microorganisms, like this is one of the firms that produce it. One of them more so one of the companies that produces stuff, but there are a lot more. So it don't take it like use this one, but just to give you an impression. And what he does actually, Henning, is to make he puts some hay into one like, what is it called, of hay, puts into the bathtub with hot water, and overnight, and the next day he puts it on, so only like this relatively small amount for a lot of manure, but you have the microbiology and that's in it, and when you put that into the manure, it starts working there. So I think it's a bit like medicine, or when you are like COVID boosted, it's just a small injection, but it has a big effect. Maybe take that picture.
Next question is from Barbara Schumann from Lübeck, and the question is, does the biochar plant need a lot of energy?
No, it has an energy surplus actually. So in the process there's this overshooting, or you have more heat than you need, and the heat can be used for district heating, and some heat you can use to dry the material that you want to pyrolyze. And but if you have like more or less dry materials, then it has energy surplus. If you want to start with pyrolyzing Klärschlamm, whatever the English term, like from the sewage sludge, you can also pyrolyze sewage sludge, but this contains a lot of water, and then you need some additional energy to just for the drying process until you have it dry enough to pyrolyze it.
Thank you very much. I've got 3 more questions in the chat. I think that will more or less fit with the time schedule here, so we'll just go through these as well. And then there's one from Maria, who asked, are there any negative or positive effects on biodiversity in the soil? I'm still thinking these are questions for you, Kristoff.
So what we are aiming at is, we're trying to convince the farmers humus is, or they are convinced we need more humus to adapt to the dry summer and wet winter. And I think the farmers focus not that much on biodiversity. This is, for the farmer, it's a side effect. But for society as a whole, it's a very important side effect. So when you have this more humus-rich soil, you need less fertilizer, less pesticides, and so a very important role goes to the fungi in the ground. And when you use fungicide, then the fungi will vanish. But they're very important for the processes that are going on in the ground. Does that answer your question? So it's a process that is going on over a longer period of time. So, but you can kickstart it by injecting like the right fungi and bacteria in the process, like this effective, like microorganisms. These are very helpful kickstarters for the process.
Okay. I'll let you finish the coffee because the last 2 questions are also for you, Kristoff. And one is from Daniel Hjortnes, who writes, can you elaborate on the farmers need education and money argument? You presented a long list of effective management techniques to protect soil. Yeah. Is it because these techniques are too expensive, or is it because there's a lack of knowledge about it?
Yeah, so what we're doing, we want it to be sustainable. So now we have a funding for 3 years, which is nice. But 3 years are finished quite fast, and we want this to last longer than the funding period. With the farmers, so it's not so like with Henning, he has been working on how to build up humus for 30, 40 years, I think, almost. And some of the things work, some didn't. But he's learning like this, always improving a little. But with this exchange and with his input from the experts, we aim at improving the learning curve. That's what it's about. So I think, some farmers they found their way and they are doing quite well. But I think the majority of farmers, they need the exchange, but also the input, the knowledge, and how to do it right in their specific context. Because what works in the geese doesn't have to work in the marsh, where you have different soil conditions. Could be different methods. And when you have cattle, it's different than if you than in a farm where you don't have cattle. So it has to be adapted to your specific situation. It costs. So what I try to say, like in the long term, building up humus pays off, because you can harvest even more than your neighbor in a drought season, and you will have more topsoil if the ground is covered. So it's an economically viable thing to build, to try to build up as much humus as possible. However, the many farmers, but it will pay off in the long run. So like Agnes said, it's building topsoil is a thing that you're not finished after 1 or 2 years, but it's a matter of so you can achieve some good results in a couple of years, but it's you're not like finished after 5 years or 10 years, but you can do it for generations and keep going. And it takes some time until it really pays off. And if you're using like biochar, or if you're using stuff to improve your manure, or some microorganisms, or if you're tilling, if you do some intertillage, if you have to invest in the seeds, you have to put it on the ground, you have to mow it down in spring, and this is our additional costs. And what we think we think it's like a small percentage of farmers, they will do it because they can afford it, because to invest now and harvest more later on in the coming years. And we have farmers that are really attracted to the idea of doing working the land sustainable, regenerative. And but a lot of farmers are like with a back to the wall. And I think we need to give them some sort of assistance. And we can't fix all the problems that the European agriculture and funding causes. And but we think we can with this climate certificates or humus enriching certificate, we can first of all give the funding that the farmer needs to work their land different, to apply to take part in courses, learning courses, or like this networking thing. Because then he has the methods, he knows he knows his toolbox, and he knows whom to ask for what specific problem, and this will help him to even after the course is finished to continue and in building up humus-rich soil, and he has a network. And I think these two things, like needed like investment or extra cost for building up humus, and for the education part, this could be funded by the certificate, by the income from certificate. And the second thing why we think it's important is because farmers are often criticized, like what they are doing to the ground, what they are doing to the land. And then when we have the certificate and say, hey, have a look, I'm doing climate protection, and this helps them also to transport a message outward, and yeah, helps them in the way that they are seen in a society, because they're doing quite an important work.
Thank you very much. I got a few questions left, but I'm sorry, we are already on the wrong side of our time schedule. So I think I'll stop here because I promised you that this would be done at around 11:40. So first of all, just to sum up, thank you very much, Agnes, and thank you very much, Kristoff, for you coming here and telling us all quite a lot about drainage and drought and how that could be helped through humus or humus enrichment. And then I'll just round off by saying that you can, of course, always contact us in the project of NEPTUN. And yes, the two presentations will be shared with all of you. And I assume that if you got further questions for either Agnes or Kristoff, they would be willing to answer an email about this. Otherwise, just contact us in NEPTUN about it, and we will make sure that that the questions get forwarded to either Agnes or Kristoff. And then just finally, as I mentioned in the beginning, have a look out for coming webinars that we are going to have in the autumn. They will focus on climate adaptation. We haven't really decided what the subjects are yet, so I can't lift the curtain for that, but have a look out for it. And thank you very much for you all coming here today, and have a good lunch break, which I assume is the next thing you're going to go for after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.